Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, Stuart Young accuses government of draining TTNGL accounts to bolster expenditure. Former Energy Minister Stuart Young has accused the government of stripping cash from Trinidad and Tobago NGL Limited, warning that the move could weaken the state-linked company's ability to invest in future projects. PNM talking about wastage, Speaking to reporters outside of Parliament yesterday, Young claimed the payment of large dividends effectively drains the company's retained earnings to boost government revenue. He said they have drained the retained earnings of TTNGL by withdrawing $2 billion and putting it under the guise of dividends. You leave the company bare. He warned that removing large sums from the company could limit its ability to respond to investment opportunities. What do you PNM invested in? The Mighty Morphin Ghana Yam? My response, the PNM drained TNT's treasury of $500 billion in the past 9.5 to 10 years, while also leaving our healthcare infrastructure and energy sector to collapse in spite of their $50 billion plus annual fiscal budgets, people. They want to talk about wastage. They also raided the Heritage and Stabilization Funds numerous times, especially during the 2020 to 2021-22 era. Was Young ever concerned about the 2.7 billion people dollar so-called glitch? The money that was either never existing or did exist and just disappeared. So was Young ever concerned about the $2.7 billion so-called glitch, which occurred when his party was still in office? Or the HSF being raided numerous times in order to balance their fiscal budgets? People, at the end of the day, PNM has no rights to be able to say anything about wastage of money. Because as I said before, $500 billion, or it could be even more, was allocated in fiscal budgets for 9.5 years, and very little to show for it. Everything was neglected. And you know how the media now is only highlighting how certain public servants haven't been given their back pay and whatsoever and receiving the pay on time. It was much worse under the PNM. Thankfully, though, the media really did used to highlight it. They just didn't really used to focus on it that much. Everybody has, PNM patriots, very short-term memory. They wouldn't remember all the hardship, all the potholes, all the neglect that they endured under the PNM, All of a sudden now it's a problem. When PNM was in power, it was all about sacrificing for the sake of country. But as I keep telling people, the PNM Patriots country is PNM. PNM Patriots God is PNM. PNM Patriots race is PNM. Everything is PNM for those patriots. So that's why anything you say against their party, they take it as an offense. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar is defending Trinidad and Tobago's decision to join the America's counter-cartel coalition, insisting the country's crime crisis cannot be solved on its own. She's 100% correct. Just a couple of days after leaving the United States, where she participated in the Shield of America's summit, the Prime Minister made a case for TNT signing on to the America's counter-cartel coalition in the lower house on Friday. She shouldn't even have had to do that. Common sense will tell you that we cannot defend our nation on our own. We are a tiny island with a military that only has probably a few little vehicles to go and gallivant with, and especially show off with during Independence and Republic Day parades and whatsoever. She noted that transnational drug cartels, illegal firearms, and organized gangs continue to pose an unprecedented threat to small island states like Trinidad and Tobago. She's 100% correct. My response, even communists, jihadists, and tribal Trinis know that we need America's help to deter, prevent, and solve crime here in TNT due to TTP's extremely low detection rate. They just wouldn't admit it. The U.S. military will also be far more successful in protecting our borders from dangerous human and drug traffickers than our Coast Guard and regiment.
Claire, we have an expression, no man is an island. And therefore, our crime crisis cannot be solved in isolation, cannot be solved alone.
Just a couple days after leaving the United States, where she participated in the Shield of the Americas Summit, Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar made her case for TNT signing on to the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition. She noted that crime is no longer a purely domestic problem, which now stretches across continents.
These networks, they move cocaine, they move heroin, they move synthetic drugs, what is called fentanyl, I think. They move them through our waters and ports. And what happens in return? In return, while these are moving, illegal firearms, arms trafficking, illicit money flow back into our community.
The Prime Minister outlined the key commitments agreed to by coalition members when the proclamation was signed on March 7th.
Criminal cartels and foreign terrorist organizations in our hemisphere, Western Hemisphere, must be fully dismantled. 2, the USA and its allies, including TNT, will coordinate to deprive these organizations deprive them of financing, resources, and territory.
Mrs. Persad-Bissessar assured that this country stands to benefit directly, particularly through intelligence sharing and strengthened border security.
And through this coalition that we have formed, law enforcement agencies will share real-time intelligence on trafficking routes, on gang leaders, on financial networks, and weapons shipments. And so with better intelligence sharing, our forces here in security can act faster and more effectively.
The Prime Minister also addressed concerns raised for those who fear that closer cooperation with the United States could erode national sovereignty.
Our participation in America's Counter-Cartel Coalition reflects our commitment to regional cooperation in tackling transnational crime, whilst at the same time we maintain full control over our national decisions and policy.
And Mrs. Persad-Bissessar also sought to address concerns from the opposition on whether she met with the US President.
During the summit, I had the honor of speaking directly with President Trump and thanking him for his support of Trinidad and Tobago and the region.
The Prime Minister noted that this was the first time in 50 years that a Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago was invited by the President of the United States. Sonolala, TTT News.
Describing her as a fearless champion of democracy, the United States senior diplomat in Trinidad and Tobago, Jennifer Neidhart de Ortiz, has praised Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar for her recent decisions on regional matters. As she had addressed the Chamber of Commerce of Trinidad and Tobago annual Women's Leadership Conference on Friday, she applauded women who stand up for the rights of others, even though when everyone, including the media, is coming down at you. I'm telling you, as much as I have issues with Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar, she's showing she has more boldness, more courage to stand up against the entire world. She believes in something that no other Prime Minister in our nation's history ever had the courage to do. The U.S. senior diplomat in TNT encouraged the men and women at the conference to follow Prime Minister Bissessar's example. Not in everything, as I said before. I don't agree with the taxing and weaning and taxes and fees and fines and whatsoever. But in general, Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar is leading our nation in a much better way than any of our former Prime Ministers have done in the past.
Also mention your Prime Minister, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, in her courageous words, standing up for people living under undemocratic governments, like the governments led by Maduro and the governments led in Cuba. I really appreciate her, and I appreciate her willingness and courage in speaking up for those who don't have a right to speak.
Dr. Neidhart de Ortiz said Cuba is guilty of 70 years of crushing violations on civil rights, as she shared the hardship of women in Cuba who cannot practice their religion.
They protest because in Cuba, there have been no real elections for decades. The elections look like all of you can vote for choice number 1 that I choose for you, choice number 2 that I choose for you, or choice number 3 that I choose for you. We are from democracies. We know that is not democracy, and we know that's not a real election.
The U.S. senior diplomat in TNT encouraged the women and men at the conference to follow Prime Minister Prasad Bisesar's example.
May we all find the courage to speak out in solidarity with those who are beaten down when they try to speak out for themselves. And may we all have the courage to challenge those very, very small groups of people at the top who hold on to their power and dominance with every ounce of their strength because they do not want others to have that power.
The National Association of Athletics Administration of Trinidad and Tobago has named its team for the World Athletics Indoor Championships set for Poland from March 20th to the 22nd. Leading the charge is Jareem Richards, the 2022 World Indoor Champion in the 400 meters, who will once again look to stake his claim among the world's elite quarter milers. Leah Bertrand lines up in the 60 meters, bringing her trademark explosive speed to the short sprint, while long jumper Tyra Gittins, a seasoned championship competitor, will represent the country in the field events. Rounding out the team in is 800-meter runner Nathan Cumberbatch, who punched his ticket to his first ever major global championship after breaking through at the senior level this season. Just this season, the athletes will be supported by team manager and coach Jehu Gordon and coach Donovan Spotsville and team medical officer Nicole Fuentes Charles. I wish them all the best, of course. Don't go anywhere. Regional news up next.
The weather forecast for Trinidad and Tobago on Saturday, March 14, 2026, indicates a generally fair and breezy morning with increasing cloudiness and a chance of showers by the afternoon. There is a low to medium chance of moderate to heavy showers during the afternoon. Some areas may also experience brief overnight or pre-dawn showers. Winds will be breezy and can become gusty, particularly near showers or in elevated areas. Sea conditions are expected to be moderate with waves reaching up to 2.0 meters in open waters and remaining below 1.0 meter in sheltered areas. The UV index is expected to be 5 moderate to 8 very high, so sun protection is advised if you're outdoors during the midday hours.
Senior Technical Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Corel Thompson Fergus, has emphasized the importance of agriculture in sustaining society, noting that the home and school gardening program plays a key role in encouraging young people to become involved in food production. It even happened, it is quite successful in Trinidad and Tobago, no? But we just don't focus on that much. But it does encourage the youth to stay off the streets once again when you give them the opportunity to start, as we call it, plant garden. They start to plant proper crops that we can actually feed on, to eat, consume, instead of other crop. Although some of them continue, yeah? Thompson Fergus noted that initiatives such as the home and school gardening program help build awareness and responsibility among youths, while also strengthening the country's food security efforts.
Even in today's highly industrialized and digitized society, it is still important. The survival of any society would be threatened if it loses its ability to produce its own food. It is therefore important that we help our youth develop an early appreciation for agriculture as a valuable contributor to the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This has been even more important now in light of the potential threat posed by global conflict to the national food and nutrition security of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. School gardens help to foster this appreciation for agriculture and the complexity of the agri-food system. The categories of the competition were designed to spark interest and creativity, pushing students to engage with agriculture in innovative ways. We saw excellent gardens which utilized creative irrigation system, greenhouse technology, soil and water conservation measures, vertical farming techniques, and good agricultural practices. Fruits a wide variety. Certainly the gardens attest to the ingenuity of the students and teachers and the potential of our students to excel when they are given the tools and the support to explore their interests.
The parliamentary opposition in Jamaica has outlined a raft of measures, it says, would spare taxpayers the $18 billion in new taxes announced by the government for the 2026-2027 fiscal year budget. The sad thing about it is the Andrew Holness administration and party didn't use, for 10 years, they didn't impose any kind of significant taxes. All of a sudden now, they're adopting this nonsense. You can't, just because of what? The hurricane? They're going to place more burden upon the citizens. The opposition has also urged the administration not to extract the $11.4 billion from the National Housing Trust, but instead use the money to address the critical housing needs of Jamaicans. The first proposal is the introduction of an electronic invoicing system for Tax Administration Jamaica that will generate $8.6 billion in taxes. Robinson explained that under the current system, when businesses make sales, they're required to upload their transaction records for verification by the tax authority. He said the problem with that model is that obligation is to upload rests with the businesses, and slippages, of course, often occur. Some people probably might avoid it intentionally. As a result of this, Robinson said transactions can go unrecorded. Uploads can be incomplete, and the gap between what was earned and the amount reported is not always caught. He said case studies in Mexico, Uruguay, Peru, and Chile have shown marked increases in revenues after the introduction of an electronic invoicing system. Maybe the Kamala Prasad administration should introduce that here in Trinidad and Tobago as well, instead of increasing fees, fines, and duties and so forth. Emphasizing that border communities in Guyana are not edges of the country, but the front line of Guyana's sovereignty, Minister of Home Affairs Wanridge Waldron, along with residents and officials of Region 1, Barima Waini, welcomed more than Guyanese $200 million investment for the reconstructed Imbotero Wharf, a new police boathouse, and the rebuilt Imbotero police station along the Barima River. You see a bunch of different things taking place, and it's not about any sort of election gimmick, people. Irfan Ali won his election last year and continues to serve his people with a genuine heart. The Barbados Nurses Association says it is looking forward to several key developments in the upcoming budget, including the finalization of a long-awaited long-leave agreement for nurses, the outcome of the job evaluation exercise, and the creation of additional posts within the nursing service, according to its president, Dr. Faye Paris. Government's financial proposals will be delivered on Monday at 4 p.m. in the House of Assembly by Minister of Finance, Ryan Strawn. Who's going to oppose it anyhow? They have all these seats in Parliament. But at the end of the day, I don't know, a lot of the policies that I'm seeing being implemented by Mia Mottley, Prime Minister Mia Mottley, are quite good. I guess just the globalist part of her and her refusal to stand with America are the issues that I have with her at this point in time.
The BNA is looking forward to the budget. We've been in discussion over the last year and over the last couple of weeks with the ministry, and we have a couple of things that we would like to see come out in the budget. One of the things we want to see is the finalizing of the long leave agreement with the nurses and how that will look like in terms of the long leave. We also eagerly looking forward to information coming out from the job evaluation exercise. One of the things that we are concerned about in nursing is that our entry level at Z23, we were advocating for that to move to Z16. We've been in discussion about that, and we're looking forward to see the outcome. The other thing that we're looking forward to would be additional posts within the nursing service, both in the clinical area and the academic area. The academic area is suffering at this moment, so we want to see how that can be transformed so that we can produce enough nurses in Barbados to support the clinical area. So we're looking forward to these areas being ratified in the budget.
Safe and sound. Bahamian aeronautical student Aisha Thompson returned home yesterday from Qatar, expressing relief as tensions continue to rise overseas. Thompson said she and fellow student Brittany Ford remained hopeful throughout the ordeal. I can imagine how they're just praying for God's protection, choosing not to focus on fear while awaiting their return home. Her arrival comes as families of Bahamian students studying abroad continue to monitor global tensions in the Middle East. Now, the thing about it is, America and Israel is only targeting Iran. The reason why these individuals have to be afraid is because Iran is just striking any nation that has a U.S. base in it. It's only a matter of time before Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and so forth begin to retaliate.
We try not to think of the worst, but it's kind of hard when you can see it happening across the street. So, the physical noise is loud, you hear the buildings shake, the windows shake, but luckily, Qatar's defense system is quite good, because I think we've had the best out of all of the Gulf countries. The only thing that I've physically seen destroyed was there was a car outside the building. They had an interceptor fall onto that, but honestly, the city kept going.
International news now. Pentagon sending USS Tripoli, a Marine amphibious ready group, and the 31st MEU to the Middle East with about 2,500 U.S. Marines. A defense official confirms to Fox News. The ship is based in Japan and could arrive in 1 to 2 weeks. The force is also accompanied by around 20 F-35B Lightning II generation fighter jets capable of vertical takeoff and landing. There's a strong possibility that this amphibious strike group and its more than 2,000 Marines could be intended for a potential operation to seize Iran's Karg Island in the Persian Gulf, from which around 80% of Iranian oil exports are shipped. Such a ground operation would likely take place after several weeks, once intensity and scale of airstrikes on Iran decrease as the list of priority targets become exhausted. Let's just hope, really and truly, that Trump and Netanyahu can finish the job in Iran and therefore restore a certain amount of normalcy in the lives of the Iranian people, even though we are in the end times, and we don't know how long it will last for. We really don't know, because the Ezekiel war could be right around the corner. Ezekiel 38. Look it up. On Thursday, the Israeli Air Force, acting on IDF intelligence, struck and eliminated the terrorist Mutada Hussein Shrour, a terrorist in the aerial unit of the Hezbollah terrorist organization 127 in the area of the Lebanese University in Beirut. I'm telling you, these terrorists always love to use schools and hospitals and so forth as their bases. The terrorist Mutada Hussein Shrour operated under the Hezbollah terrorist organization and served as a leading figure and an expert in the field of weapons manufacturing within the organization. Additionally, Mutada was the brother of the terrorist Mohammed Hussein Shrour, commander of Hezbollah's aerial unit, who was eliminated in Operation Northern Arrows. Because remember, Hezbollah has joined the fight in support of their precious Ayatollah in Iran. Now, for the interesting fact segment, we've known for years that cold plunges feel invigorating. It feels freezing. But Danish scientists have just discovered that the benefits are far more than just skin deep. They're actually permanently rewiring your brain. A groundbreaking study has identified that consistent cold water swimming physically alters the locus ceruleus, a small nucleus in the brain stem, that acts as the primary alarm system for the entire body. When you submerge yourself in icy water, your body enters a state of acute stress. You're freezing, triggering a massive release of noradrenaline. However, the Danish researchers found that for regular winter swimmers, this cold shock acts as a high-intensity training session for the brain's stress responses. By repeatedly forcing the locus ceruleus to fire in a controlled environment, the brain learns to decouple physical discomfort from mental panic. Over time, this results in a permanent retuning of the nervous system, lowering your baseline level of cortisol and making your brain significantly less reactive to the stresses of daily life. Ooh, what a way to accomplish that. We get cold water.
Welcome to Real Conservative News Travel Adventures. Vancouver, Canada is a stunning, multicultural coastal city in British Columbia where modern skyscrapers meet lush nature. Renowned for its proximity to mountains and sea, it offers easy access to outdoor adventures, including Stanley Park, Grouse Mountain hiking, skiing, and beaches. It is a vibrant food scene, particularly in Granville Island.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.